Okay, good evening. Oh, well, not sure when you're listening to this, but anyway, welcome to the Great New Me Reclaim Your Time series. It's a set of audio messages that will help you eliminate time drains that slow down your progress towards your goals or your vision. I feel these are messages that need to be shared widely based on conversations that I've had with coaching clients from lots of different backgrounds. But before I dive in, I'll give you a little bit of background about me. Coaching found me as a result of a series of life changes that had led me to question what my purpose was. But before I came into coaching, I ran my own business as a consultant, helping founders scale their operations. And even before that, I worked as a consultant for a couple of the largest consulting firms in the world, helping multinational organizations manage growth and implement change. I believe in coaching because I now know we all have the right answers within us. It's just that in this very busy and very noisy world, we operate without actually hearing ourselves, and we manage to obscure our inner wisdom. I found that coaching helps people hear and listen to their inner wisdom again. And in this series, I'm taking some of the learning I've had from coaching people and using it to look at how we sometimes get in our own way and how we can recognize the blockers that delay us or stop us, resolve those simply and easily, and move on. The blockers I'm talking about today are time drains. And the specific time drain I want to talk about right now is money, particularly or specifically naivety around money. Have you ever bought stuff in a sale because it had 50% off and then proceed never to use any of the stuff you've bought at all? Or have you ever refused to outsource an activity because you believe that you can't afford to? But as a result, you've got to limit the size of a customer you work with. Or have you spent years trying to find the right property to buy, but not been able to land on something suitable? These are the types of stories that some of my clients tell me. The types of stories that when they actually listen to themselves properly, has them both laughing and crying at the indecision that's holding them back. And the indecision tends to be rooted in money. Money can be an extremely emotive topic. Some people say it's the root of all evil. Others feel the urge to hoard it because, in their minds, there isn't enough for everyone. Yet others can't deal with it long enough to plan ahead for even known expenses. The issue or the underlying problem in these situations is that the emotion that people are feeling when they are thinking about the money is obscuring their normal logic. It doesn't matter whether that emotion is scarcity or thinking that it's the root of all evil or just being plain scared. The fact is that when emotion gets in the way of our objectivity, our logic deserts us. We don't think straight, and we sometimes jump to make decisions on half of the information or sometimes on no information whatsoever. Let me tell you a couple of stories. Story one. Potential client talks to me about how she'd love to expand her side hustle. She's exhausted from trying to do two things at the same time, and she can't really see a way out. And we talk about her delegating some of the work she does in her side hustle so that she can spend time on talking to more potential clients and on strategizing for the business, the sorts of things you need to do to work on the business as opposed to in the business. And as we talk about this on our first call, it makes sense to her. And then we talk about this again over the course of several conversations. And each time she has some very rational reason why she has not started delegating. She's not had time to speak with the recruitment agencies. She's not had time to interview anyone. She's not sure how she'll find time to train them. And then finally, she admits she's scared of the commitment of having to pay staff. She's scared of spending before she can see the income. She doesn't want to spend before that money is in her bank. In her mind, all she can see is having to spend money on bringing in somebody that she can delegate to. And her emotions aren't allowing her to see the upside of having the profit from more clients. She can only see the spend side, not the profit side. She is stopping at that piece of I'll spend money, and that's where her emotions are stopping her. So it turns out that her procrastination is more about her emotions regarding money. But this was adding months, to my knowledge anyway, possibly years, who knows? But to my knowledge, it had added months to her timeline for moving her side hustle on to becoming a real business. Or take another example, story 2. This is a young professional doing very well, got a good job, and very keen to get on the property ladder. However, he lives and works in London. And if you know the London property market, you know that the prices have only moved in one direction for the last decade. And every time this topic comes up as part of our conversation, he talks about how he just needs to find something that's value for money, or how he's worried about interest rates going up. And yes, they're going up. Or how the search locations that he's having to look at are getting further and further out from where he had first started. We talk about how his current landlord has put up the rent by 40%, and how that means he will really take his search seriously now. And then I ask him about how money was talked about as he grew up. And he told me about perceived scarcity and how it was drummed into him and his siblings that money didn't grow on trees, and it was critical to be very careful when spending. And it turns out that his programming regarding money meant he was ultra careful about spending, particularly when it came to large sums. And the emotions that came up for him regarding money were about scarcity and affordability. And therefore, his emotions were holding him back whilst property prices continued to rise faster than his salary was rising. His options as time went on were to look even further out or to look at smaller properties. In both of the stories I've just told here, you'll notice that it's emotion that's underpinning the inaction or the indecision. And the reason that I'm talking about this is that too many of us don't realize that emotion is at the root of that delay, that non-movement, that indecision that we're dealing with. In lots of cases, the response I observe when progress is slow is people just comparing themselves to others and wondering what's wrong with them. Why can't I do this? Why haven't I done that? Why, how come they can do it better than me? How come they can do it faster than me? And I'll tell you why. The reason other people are making those decisions faster than you feel you can is because they didn't get the same programming that you did as you grew up. They were brought up in an environment where money was thought about and talked about differently. And that means your emotions around money are very different to the people around you that you observe are moving faster than you are when it comes to financial matters. So should we throw in the towel and give up because it's all because of how I was brought up. So what can I do about it? Of course not. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking to you now. What it does mean is that you need to pay much more attention. When the would-be entrepreneur and I talked calmly and objectively about how long she would be paying for her new colleague before she saw the benefit of the additional income that they would generate for her, she was able to see the wisdom in moving forwards and eventually felt more comfortable about committing. When the would-be property owner talked through his options calmly, his options were wait or proceed. And he saw that the outcome from waiting would be that his rent would also be increasing in line with interest rates. He was able to move forward with much more confidence. I'll be honest, I am making it sound quite simple here. It still did take a fair amount of thinking and second guessing and examining the situation before implementation actually took place. And I'll put that time and that facilitation down to the strength of the subconscious programming that they were working against. But in both cases, they did move forwards. And what I'd like to draw out here is the fact that without being able to objectively look at what's happening, that vacillation, that self-doubt, and the self-castigation that comes with it could continue indefinitely. And I'd say that definitely is a time drain. So how can you use this knowledge to avoid the same trap? I believe it's a 4-step process. The first step is to notice or acknowledge when indecision might be due to the financial implications of what it is you're trying to do. The second step is to identify the emotion that's coming up for you regarding the money side of things. Just look at that emotion and accept it. There's no need to label it a good or bad emotion. It's just where you are currently. The third step is to make a plan to get objective information about what it is you're trying to do. So this decision that you're trying to make, let's get some objective information about it from all angles. And then you can assess your options in light of full information. The fourth step, of course, is to act. But you're acting on full information, whereas before you were reacting on half a story. I'll elaborate a little bit. I'll go back to the example of our would-be entrepreneur. So the first step we did was we noticed the effect of her money mindset on the fact that the decision she needed to take had financial implications. The second step was we then thought helped her to understand why those emotions were coming up. We identified that the emotion coming up for her was a fear of waste and a fear regarding affordability. And as we talked about her upbringing, she saw how the mantra had been never to spend what you don't have. And also she grew up with everyone around her working for a salary. And therefore, to her, it was extremely risky to work without already knowing exactly how and when she would be paid. The third step we did was to gather the objective information about the decision she wanted to make. In her case, it was a very, very simple cash flow showing when she would have to pay money out to this new person she was bringing on board, and when she was likely to get money in. And seeing the numbers in black and white meant that she could test them. She could consider various risks about, what if it took longer to do this? What if, and once she'd been able to test those various scenarios, she could build her confidence about realizing she would cope, even if not everything went exactly to plan. And then the first step was she acted. Yes, she needed lots of reassurance, lots of hand-holding, but she did act. She recruited her first employee, and within weeks, she was saying to me she didn't understand why it had taken her so long to commit. So I'll recap on the steps. Step one is to notice or acknowledge when the indecision might be due to the financial implications of the decision you're trying to make. Step two is to identify the emotion that's coming up, observe it and accept it. Step three is to make a plan to get objective information about the decision. Sometimes help is needed to get all of the information to see the full picture. But once you've got that information, assess your options in light of that full picture. Step four is to act on full information. If you're listening to this, you probably already recognize that there are some decisions you need to take faster. My question to you, though, is how can you make sure the time you spent listening to this short monologue makes a difference to your decision-making speed going forwards? And my answer is you have to act now. Strike while the iron's hot. Select a decision you've been struggling with and start to put it through the steps that I've just described. And start doing that now, today. That's how you'll make sure that this time was well spent. You can put it off, but you and I both know that putting this off is highly likely to result in no change whatsoever. If it's very impractical for you to act today, I suggest that you, at the very minimum, determine exactly when you plan to act and hold yourself accountable for taking your first steps at that time that you define. This is your life, your dreams. You will have to do something different in order to see a different result. So, why not start that journey as soon as you can? As someone who has struggled with procrastination and money mindset myself, I know how scary this is. And I know how your subconscious will be screaming for you to do something else, just anything else except having to deal with this at this time. But all I can say is that the reward for trying is 1,000,000 times better than the regret of watching everyone else moves while you stay stuck. I'll be delighted to answer any questions or indeed talk in more detail about what you've tried or what you could do differently. So please feel free to make contact by emailing me on ola@greatnewme.com. I'll spell out my email for you. It's O for Oscar, L for Lima, A for Alpha, at G for Golf, R for Romeo, number 8, N for November, E for Echo, W for Whiskey, M for Mike, E for Echo.com. Thank you so much for listening and well done on investing in yourself. I'll remind you again, as I always do, that to see a change, you need to make a change. I wish you everything you wish yourself. Until next time, thank you. Take care.